Today we're going to be talking about the history of wands. Wands date back centuries. Original wand makers were druids. Druids were members of priestly classes and produced wands out of materials like vine. In ancient times, many wands were constructed around cores that witches and wizards brought with them, and this is not as common today. In 382 BC, some of the first original wand shops were from the Ollivander family, the ancestor of Ollivander. The original was thought to come from a Mediterranean country and set up a store in a place that developed into what is known today as Diagon Alley. Ollivander researched the best wand cores that fit wands and believed wands to choose the wizard. The Ollivander family revolutionized the wand choosing process. However, there are other wand makers. Mikhail Grigorovich, owner of Grigorovich Zauberstaben, in English Grigorovich Wands. He owned this wand shop in Europe from 1926 to 1987. He also sold wands in markets. Victor Krum received his wand from Grigorovich. Grigorovich was considered an expert in wand lore. Jimmy Kittle was another British wizard and wand maker that rivaled Ollivander and Grigorovich. He is a proprietor of Jimmy Kittle's Wonderful Wands located in Diagon Alley. Not much is known about him currently to this day. Johannes Jonker, an American Muggleborn that was one of the four primary American wand makers in the early 20th century. He is shown in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It is said that he would place signature mother-of-pearl inlays in his wands that were easy to recognize. They preferred the core of his wands to be the hair of a wampus cat. Violetta Beauvais, she was another one of the four primary American wand makers in the early 20th century. She was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and was known for using swamp mayhaw wood from trees in Louisiana. The wand core she used in her wands were rougarou hairs, similar to werewolves, and it is thought that her wands were related to dark magic due to this rougarou hair. But many good witches and wizards had her wands, including the famous Serafina Picquery. Thiago Quintana, an American wizard that was another one of the four American wand makers in the early 20th century. It is said his wands were created with elegance and had great force. His wands had the spine of a white river monster and was used as the core. The creature was said to be native to Arkansas. After his death, no other wand makers experimented with this core. This being because no one else has been able to lure creatures out of hiding that was used for this core. Jacoba Wolf, another one of the four American wand creators in the early 20th century. Wolf was of Native American descent and used Thunderbird cores for his wand. Thunderbird wands were said to be incredibly powerful but difficult to master. They are often sought after by the most interested and gifted people in transfiguration. Thunderbirds are cousins to the phoenix, and they're capable of causing storms. Arturo Cephalopoulos. He was a wand maker in the 19th century that competed with Garrick Ollivander's grandfather, Gerbold Ollivander. Gerbold Ollivander claimed silver lime had an association with divination. Arturo stated Gerbold's claim was, quote, a falsehood circulated by merchants like Gerbold Ollivander, who have overstocked their workshops with it and hope to shift their surplus. There isn't much more known about Arturo, but the fact that he was called an ignoramus from Garrick, and Arturo eventually went out of business. Cosme Acahor was a French wand maker that ran a wand shop in Paris. He's mentioned in the Crimes of Grindelwald, but not much else is known about him. Some witches and wizards have actually personally made their own wands. These include Isolde Sayer and James Stewart. They started the Olivermony School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and created a wand for Chadwick out of a serpent horn. Salazar Slytherin created his own wand out of a basilisk horn and snakewood. And Antioch Peverell, that is thought personally created the Elder Wand with a thestral core, even though some think it was death and perceive death as a literal figure. Ollivanders came to Britain in 382 BC. They set up a stall where they sold wands in early times. Eventually, the stall location developed into what is known as Diagon Alley, and the building there today is thought to be the oldest next to Gringotts Wizarding Bank. What made Ollivanders so successful was the detail they put into their wands early on. The oldest Ollivander was Geraint Ollivander. He was known for his perfection of creating wands and crafting them, and his knowledge of wand lore. Gerbold Ollivander had the deep belief of the wand and his owner. He was Geraint's descendant. Gerbold believed the wand would, depending on the wizard, would benefit them depending on the abilities of the wizard. Jephthes Ollivander, Garrick Ollivander's father, continued the family business but still used cores wand makers brought in themselves that might not necessarily benefit them. Garrick sought to change this. Garrick continued his family business but began to pick cores for witches and wizards that helped bring out the best in their abilities. He also let the wand choose the wizard, and with which revolutionized wand development. There is one known attempt of robbery of Ollivanders. This occurred in 1996 from a witch known as Alexandra Walker. Not much is known about the robbery, though. The original store was small, and another store of Ollivanders was opened on Hogsmeade, eventually to help more customers. This store most often was ran by Garrick's associates. Garrick attended Hogwarts and was sorted into Ravenclaw. Ollivander concluded that cores Dragonheart String, Unicorn Hair, and Phoenix Hair worked best for wands. He called these supreme cores. He tried Vela Hair and Thestral Hair at one point, but deemed them too difficult to control. Dragonheart String, Garrick concluded, had the most power. However, they bond the strongest with the current owner and are the most prone to the dark arts and being temperamental. Unicorn Hair generally produces the most consistent magic and is the least subject to blockages. These are the most difficult to turn to the dark arts and usually remain faithful to their first owner. Phoenix Feather core wands are capable of the greatest range of magic. However, they do have a trait of acting on their own accord. Their allegiance is usually hard won. In the summer of 1938, Ollivander sold Tom Riddle his wand. He also sold Harry Potter his first wand. Harry and Tom's wand both had the same type Phoenix core. Ollivander inspected the wands of the witches and wizards in the Triwizard Tournament and questioned the styling of Victor Crumb's wand because it was made from Grigorovich. He questioned Fleur Delacour's Vela Hair core wand as he deemed the Vela Hair cores were hard to control. In July 1996, Ollivander was kidnapped by Death Eaters. Ollivander was held prisoner at Malfoy Manor, and Voldemort questioned Ollivander for Priori Incantatem. Ollivander was eventually rescued with the rest of the group he was with at Malfoy Manor by Dobby the House Elf. Garrick went to Shell Cottage after this. Garrick then informed Harry about the Elder Wand. The wand had a Thestral Hair core. Like Vela Hair, Garrick had experimented with Thestral Hair cores, but deemed them too difficult to control. The Elder Wand was the only wand ever created with a Thestral core, created by Antioch Peverell or Death himself. A wand is the object through which a witch or wizard channels his or her magic. It is made from wood and has a magical substance at its core. Wands made by Ollivander have cores of Phoenix Feather, Unicorn Hair, or Dragon Heartstring, and are of varying woods, lengths, and flexibilities. Length, wood type, and core type differentiate between the wand. Length can judge the size and character of a witch or wizard. Most wands are between 9 and 15 inches long, and wand makers often match the wand length to the height of the witch or wizard who will use it, but Ollivander considers this measure inadequate. In his experience, longer than average wands tend to be drawn to those with physical peculiarity or a bigger personality, whereas abnormally short wands select people whose character lacks something. The wood takes into account which wizard's individuality and personality can take place. A wand core allows the wizard to tap into their most powerful magical abilities and determines how they can channel magic, and is looked at as an extension of the witch or wizard themselves. Quote from Ollivander: "Early in my career, as I watched my wand maker father wrestling with a substandard wand core material such as kelpie hair, I conceived ambition to discover the finest cores and to work only with those when my time come to take over the family business. This I have done. After much experimentation and research, I have concluded that only 3 substances produce wands of the quality to which I am happy to give illustrious name of ollivander: unicorn hair, dragon heartstring, and phoenix feather. Each of these costly and rare materials has its own distinct properties. Dragon. As a rule, dragon heartstrings produce wands with the most power, and which are capable of the most flamboyant spells. Dragon wands tend to learn more quickly than other types, while they can change allegiance if won from the own original master. They always bond strongly with the current owner. The dragon wand tends to be easiest to turn to the dark arts, though it will not incline that way of its own accord. It is the most prone of the 3 cores to accidents, being somewhat temperamental. Phoenix feather. Phoenix feathers are capable of the greatest range of magic, though they may take longer than either unicorn or dragon cores to reveal this. They show the most initiative, sometimes acting of their own accord, a quality that many witches and wizards dislike. Phoenix feather wands are always the pickiest when it comes to potential owners, for the creature from which they are taken is one of the most independent and detached in the world. Unicorn hair. Unicorn hair generally produces the most consistent magic and is the least subject to fluctuation and blockages. Wands with unicorn cores are generally the most difficult to turn to the dark arts. They are the most faithful of all wands and usually remain strongly attached to their first owner, irrespective of whether he or she was an accomplished witch or wizard. Other wand cores can include Vila hair. Flor Delacour had one of these. Ollivander described it as temperamental. A basilisk horn. Salazar Slytherin made his own wand with the core of a basilisk horn. A wampus cat. A wampus cat hair. This was used by Johannes Jonker. A thunderbird. Thunderbird tail feathers were used for cores. A snallygaster. Snallygaster heartstring. This creature was similar to a dragon. Isolde Sayer used this to craft some of her wands for her early students at Ilvermorny School. A jackalope. A jackalope antler was used by Isolde Sayer as well. A rougarou hair. Rougarou hairs were used by Violetta Beauvais, and they were thought to be associated with the dark arts. Thestral hair. This is argued as the most powerful of all wand cores. The Elder Wand was the only one in existence with this core constructed by Antioch Peverell or Death himself. However, most likely thought Death was not a literal creature. A troll facial hair, or troll whiskers. This was possible but considered inadequate to be a wand core. Dittany, a plant core. This was used for healing wands. A horned serpent. The horned serpent was used by Isolde Sayer. It was exceptionally powerful and sensitive to postle tongue. This core would allow the wand to warn the owner of danger by emitting a low musical tone and vibrating when postle tongue is spoken. The white river monster. White river monster spines were found in Arkansas, and this was used by Thiago Quintana, thought to produce elegance and force in wands. Bone. Bone has been used as cores in many wands, as well as shell has been used in many wands. Newt Scamander had a wand with elements of shell in it. Coral. Grigorovich was known for using this as a core. Upira wand cores were hairs of dwarves that were native to Brazil. These were notoriously unstable wand cores, but it has been expressed if this wand with this core chooses you, you must be a very talented witch or wizard. Kelpie. Kelpie hair has been used as a core. Shape-shifting water demons located in Great Britain, Ollivander has publicly denounced using this as a core. Quote, early in my career, as I watched my wandmaker father wrestling with substandard wand core materials such as Kelpie hair, I conceived the ambition to discover the finest cores. What type of wand did you get on Pottermore.com, or what type of wand did you create in Hogwarts Legacy? Drop it in the comments below. If you would like to know more about Harry Potter and the Wizarding World lore, subscribe to Chase and Josh Factor Fantasy Podcast. The link is in the bio, or you can subscribe to Ridiculous Patronus on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Have a magical week.